Or are we live?
Yeah, we're live. Hey everybody,
Cool.
this is the Crazy Kirby Kid, and we are back for another Project Smash Roundtable. And the topic of the week is customs, or custom special moves. You've probably heard that Smash 4, the latest Super Smash Bros. Game to the universe of Smash, has the ability to customize characters. And with that, we can not only change their custom moves, but a whole bunch of other things. But with this new feature comes a whole bunch of new topics, concerns, and issues that we have to work through as a community. So what better way to either clear up these issues or work through some solutions than with a really good discussion with people who know a lot about these custom moves in the first place. So with us today, we have some TOs and players and people who have thought a lot about custom moves. I'll let them introduce themselves one by one, starting with Kyle or Think a Man. You may have heard of him before on the Smash boards. Go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your Smash background and how you enter this whole customs conversation.
Well, I'm Think a Man. I've been a competitive Smash player in the Midwest since late Melee, like 2007. Um, I've been playing a lot of Smash 4 lately in the St. Louis area, though I haven't been getting to travel much, sadly. Uh, my connection with custom moves was that when they were originally announced, I was actually really adamantly against them. Like, I thought, that, oh, this is a terrible idea. And I thought about it for about 2 months, and I was talking about them with some friends, and I came to the conclusion they actually could be pretty good. And I made a big post about it on Smashboards, like going through the logic. And then, so I went into the game coming out with optimism, and I've been playing almost exclusively with customs, except for a few Tonys that haven't allowed them since the game's release.
Very cool. Thanks for that. And the next up will be Chris, or you may know him as the Amazing Ampharos.
Hey, I'm Amazing Amphros. I too have been playing competitive Smash since the late Melee, early Brawl era. Really getting into Smash 4 with Rosalina from Kansas City. And I've been the guy on Smash boards who's been running around like a chicken with his head cut off trying to organize sets for all the characters so tournaments can run custom moves without having to build stuff or import from 3DS before every game. So my big focus has really been making this system work because this game is just so much more fun with them.
Cool. And we have Rob, or he's a fellow Texas and tourney locator friend of ours. So he is actually the guy who sets up all the rules for our local events, which I attend regularly. So Rob, give us a little bit about your background and your thoughts on custom moves real quick.
Okay, so what's up? I'm Oracle. I'm the event coordinator for Tourney Locator, which means I run almost, or basically all of the events in Dallas, including the Shockwave Weekly Series, which I would assume most of you guys tuning in have seen before. Currently, we're doing custom moves, and last week was our second week doing them, and it was great. Had a lot of fun, a lot more character diversity, and most importantly, no Diddy Kong Dittos. So that was great. Yeah, I think custom moves are amazing. They add a lot to the game, and I mean, really, there's no reason not to have them on. Why would you? It's just you have two modes to play a game. One has all the moves unlocked, and one mode has them banned. And if it's not broken, you don't need to ban it. That's just the bottom line when it comes to fighting games. None of the custom moves have been proven to be broken, much less, all of them for people who, want the game to be standard or whatever and all customs banned. So, yeah, and that's pretty much my stance. It's a David Serlin-esque approach. It's not busted. Don't ban it.
Cool. Thanks for that introduction. So for everybody currently listening in, everyone in the Twitch chat, this is a Project Smash Roundtable. What we're really trying to do here is open up the conversation, maybe say a few things that you've heard of before, clear up some issues, maybe teach you and share some information with you that you've never heard before. But one of the best ways that we get this done is by, bringing our voices together, pulling all of our information and resources together, and even lending our voices to the same project, right? So if you'll go right now to the website we have here, it's the Project Smash website, and it's the custom moves page. You'll see that a lot of the information we just mentioned, like the um, Smash 4 thread on custom moves by Thinkaman or the amazing Enfaro's custom move system are actually here on the main information page. I'll share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. But the website looks a little bit like this. And just pulling a little bit of information from all over the net, you see that there's that poll that went around on Twitter a couple of weeks ago talking about custom moves and how it had 7,862 respondents. So that's pretty cool. Voices for and against custom moves on both sides of the conversation, really trying to get you a well-rounded slice of what the current industry, or not industry, but the community is saying about custom moves. Some of them are videos. Some people have their opinions based on commentary they made in Twitch chat. A lot of these are tweets. Some people tweet longer. Like everything to give you a really representative sample is here. But if you'll scroll down to the page or click on the survey button at the top, this Smash survey right here is really important for you to take right now. Because based on, there's only 3 questions, and based on how you answer them, we are going to conduct this survey, or not the survey, this roundtable according to what issues are most important to you. So go ahead, I'm going to paste the link in the Twitch chat again, and you should click on the survey button and take it. I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. And we will proceed in a few minutes talking about the issues that you think are most important to discuss with this issue on customs. But like Rob was saying, or Oracle, is that there's a lot of, or what he was saying really brought to light a lot of issues that we were having as a community. At first, even Thinkaman wasn't for customs, but then he warmed up to it. Other people thought customs should be banned, but Oracle is saying they really shouldn't be banned because they're a part of the game, and it kind of expands what we have to play with. But there are definitely positions, point of views, and issues to discuss on both sides, and hopefully we'll be able to address a lot of those here on this roundtable. We may be joined by a few guests later on in the roundtable program, but just hang with us. We'll be going through things really soon. So hopefully you guys are taking that survey. I'm going to show you the results in just a few seconds, and we will start with our first issue from there. I'll just give you a few more minutes, but is there anything you want to say, Chris, about the logistics and any impending tournaments coming up? Because I know, I guess, EVO is a really big tournament for the Smash community now that we've had Melee at EVO for 2 years straight, and they are definitely looking to have Smash again at EVO, but now it's not just Melee, it's Smash 4. So not only are there going to be more Smash games represented, but more Smash players than ever, and there's this huge looming issue of how do we make this work for tournaments. So if you want to say a few things about your system, go right ahead.
Sure thing. The basic idea of the system that I've been working on is that for custom moves, you build a loadout of whatever 4 particular moves you're using. And if you do that on the spot, it takes 40 seconds as the Wii U's unlock them, and unlocking them on all the Wii U's is nearly impossible, or 50 seconds if you import from a 3DS. But if it just happened to already be built, it's only 1 second. So the idea is to just look at the balance of the game, see that some customs are much better than others, some combos are much better than others, and just have all the good stuff already there. So for practical tournament matches, all this waiting is just cut out, and you can just jump in and play the game, which simultaneously solves the problem of unlocking this stuff, which a couple of us have unlocked everything, but as far as I can tell, most of the community has no appetite for unlocking, so it's really good to take it off their hands. And you also asked me about tournaments that are coming up, and EVO's really the big one. Unfortunately, I haven't surveyed the community super hard. I just hear people talking about stuff. I do know Samurai Panda was talking about some national he was helping organize down in Arizona that's going to be using them in April.
Yeah, that's Aftershock.
Yeah, and it sounds like Thinkaman can tell you a lot more about it than I know about it.
And maybe he can. It sounds like he doesn't know too much more details about that tournament. But yeah, EVO's a big one on Verizon.
Sorry to interrupt, but Aftershock is not actually in Arizona. It's in Texas, and that's a different one. So I think it was the MVG League, the one that Mewtwo King uses as his sponsor tag or whatever right now. They're organizing something else in Arizona that's going to have Project M, Melee, and Smash 4. I haven't heard anything about their stance on customs, but, you know, with EVO a few months away, I would assume they would use customs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I believe EVO has to lock in the tournament rules for good sometime in March.
March 27th is the final day that they can be changed.
Cool. So while it feels like they're strongly leaning for customs, anything can change from now to then. It's good that regardless of what decision they make, we do the best job that we can, either polling our own community or gathering all the information and resources we can so that they make the best decision they feel is possible. All right, so I've given everyone a few minutes to take that survey. Feel free to continue taking it. I'm going to go to the results and show you a little bit of what we're looking at on my share screen. So check this out, refresh. So we have 113 responses in on the survey. And as you can see at the top, 87% of the people are for custom moves. 7%, which is 8 people, say no. 2% are indifferent, and 4% are undecided. Still collecting data. Pass the survey around to everyone you think has an opinion on this. It's important to hear from everybody. But for the purposes of this roundtable, we are going to move right along to the issues. And the issues that are surrounding this issue, these are a list of issues that I just took straight from Twitter. I took straight from Twitter, just kind of seeing what everybody was saying, what they were most concerned about, and without necessarily providing an answer or worrying about if we even can come up with an answer, I made sure to have a lot of the most popular issues represented on the survey. So from top to bottom, unlocking custom moves, that's kind of a big deal. Increasing the potential matchups to study, how much you have to learn or prepare for in order to be tournament competent. Logistics for running tournaments, banning either custom moves or specific combinations of custom moves. What will that be like moving on to the future? Because we know banning was a previous topic on a Smash Roundtable. You can always catch up on some of the old ones we've done from the website. But banning, it's a lot trickier than it seems, and we've had a history in the Smash community of doing things inconsistently, to say the least. The ratio of increased complexity versus depth, that's a topic that popped up every now and then. How changing the rules affects the metagame. When and how to implement custom rules, including partial allowances, or supporting both custom and non-custom events. The idea of splitting the player base and other, I just left an open slot. So on the right side here, it looks like the most popular issue so far is this idea of logistics. And we touched on it a little bit with Amazing Enfaros' system, but if anybody else has anything to say or some personal experience with running either the Amazing Enfaros system or something else, feel free to chime in now.
So we've been using the Amazing Ampharos standard custom move project, and it worked out great. The time on our tournaments, we had a few. Our numbers have sort of dipped a little bit, but that was more just due to other issues. Like our last tournament was the day before Valentine's Day, so obviously there's going to be a bunch of people missing that. But regardless, the time that our tournaments ran it didn't take any longer to run the tournaments. It was a pain in the ass putting all the setups on each Wii U. It takes about, I went fast, and if you can go fast, it takes about 15 minutes per Wii U, and in the store we have 12 Wii U's, so it's a few hours. But that's a one-time thing. We're never gonna have to do that again. And even if you crowdsource like most tournaments do, you just have to have everybody show up about an hour early if you have two 3DSs with everything unlocked. We used a power save on somebody's 3DS to make all the sets, and it took me about an hour to make all the sets as well. So those give you some ideas of the logistics. It's nothing game breaking. It might be a little difficult if you're running like a massive one-day tournament, but we're actually doing that in a couple weeks at Fight Me IRL. That's going to have customs, and it's not going to be at our normal shop, so we won't have all that we use with everything set up. So I just put that if you want the setup discount, you need to have all the custom moves on, and you can either bring it to the shop, one of our other tournaments, and we'll set them up there for you, or you can show up minimum an hour early, and then we'll put up custom moves before the first event at noon, and that'll be it. So I assume we won't have any big problems there. And
here locally, I've just been putting them on one Wii U every time we have a Smash Fest, every time we have a tourney, something.
There you go.
So by now we have them all. It's taken me about 12 minutes for each one I timed them. And this is normally while I watch someone else play. So it's been not really a big deal.
Multitasking like a champ. The
Well, I
one,
don't know if it counts as multitasking to watch someone play Smash Brothers.
I think one difference with the tournaments that Oracle was running is that we didn't allow, or they didn't allow people to upload their own set. I know that Amazing Ampharos' system has that you preload the sets onto each Wii U, and then you have that other comment, that other option for if you have a set that's not on there, you need to be able to have your own 3DS and upload it yourself or something like that. So Amazing Ampharos, if you could comment on that, and then Oracle afterwards, if you can comment on why you decided not to go with something to that extent.
Certainly. So that was put in place basically to give TOs flexibility. The idea is that we want the system to be able to account for people who are at any level of exploration, any level of organization. But actually, as it turns out, Evo is not allowing on-the-spot importing either for their logistical reasons. They can't accept the possibility that every set will take 50 more seconds, even if it only be a couple in practice, which is perfectly understandable. So we're actually in the middle of updating the system to fill out the full 10 slots just so we'll be able to cover the maximum number of players even with Evo scale entries.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Opening the door for people to do it, it may not seem like a big deal based on popularity, but it could be a big deal. And with tournaments like Evo, you definitely want to avoid some of those situations where you're going over time. I can definitely see that. Can you tell us how you pulled the sets in the first place in order to create the default sets for the custom moves?
It was a little chaotic because I went on Smashboards and I made, a general thread in the competitive discussion, and then I went to every last one of the character boards and just started talking to all of them. I pulled multiple all-nighters to actually have basically 52 conversations at once, but I pulled together basically what the mains of each character thought and applied some general game knowledge to try to make things make sense and kind of put it together. For the Evo update, I'm actually kind of hoping to pull on a couple more people to help out with that back-end organizing. That's not quite fully cooked yet, but that's basically the process.
Cool. Yeah, so something very Smashboards focused, which is our home to the Smash community. A lot of people still use Smashboards, but I know it doesn't quite reach every single member within the Smash community. And for us in particular, when we went to the last Shockwave, we're always weird with the sets that we pick. We're like, why is there no 2-1-3-1? Like, where is it? And we couldn't find it anywhere on the list, so we were a little bit out of luck. But there's always going to be some combination that isn't represented in a 10-slot custom move setup. So this is definitely sort of the gives and take that are involved with tournament logistics. Rob, Oracle, did you want to comment on any thought process that you went to when you determined not to allow people to upload at the last Shockwave or last two?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's two reasons. Half of it is logistical. That adds just way too much time. And, I mean, if there's 5 people who have, we have 6 sets on each Wii U, right? If there's 5 people who bring their own 3DSs and want their sets, and they fill up all the remaining slots, that means sets have to get deleted each time. And it's also not really possible for me to just let everybody upload on their own 3DS without me checking it, because you can make one that you can't check without going through the menus that says that they're balanced but still has some sort of differing buff. Or,
though you can see them as they upload it, it shows you any equipment they would have.
Yeah, exactly. So
right.
I would have to be literally at that setup every time they upload it at the video, and that's not feasible for me to do if there's more than like one person doing it. Mm-hmm. And the second half of the reason is that it gives an unfair advantage to people who own a 3DS. I don't want to. I feel like as with a game, you should just be able to own the game, and that's it, and that's all you need to get good. And that's true for custom moves. You can unlock anything to practice with or practice against on your own Wii U. However, giving people the advantage of owning a 3DS, or letting people with a 3DS have the advantage of using their own custom sets, that nobody else has access to and aren't in the standard project is unfair to people who don't own a 3DS. And it's basically saying, if you want to use your own personal build, you need to buy this $150 piece of hardware and $50 extra game. So I just don't really like that sort of idea. It's not great.
No, I definitely agree. I think there's a certain distasteful element to it.
Yeah.
I do think at a certain local level, there's some benefit to saying, hey, if you want to do something that's unusual and considered suboptimal, we'll make allowances within our local scene to accommodate this and see what it out. But something like Evo, no, I don't think it's appropriate.
You have to make it scalable.
Right.
So exactly. Your idea isn't scalable, which is a problem because someone's going to go to a local that allows that, and then they go to the regional with something that they've been training with at the local. They're not allowed to use it. It's unfair. What I was going to do for my local was take votes, sort of. If enough people saw a set that they wanted for a particular character, I was going to put a Google Docs form where you could vote on that. And if there are a bunch of Bowser players saying, well, he doesn't have this fireball or whatever that we all think he should have on these sets. We've got 4 slots, so we can use that. And the other thing that I wanted to do, well, this would be, I guess, more up y'all's alley, was a few of the characters were really, it was clear there wasn't a lot of input or discussion on what custom sets to use with them. For example, Yoshi, if you look at his custom moves, there's not rhyme or reason as to why. They're all wildly different. Whereas on Rob's, it's clear neutral laser's the best, neutral side B is the best, and then there's combinations of all of his gyros and his second and third up Bs, and so that's reflected. So every set is 1123 or 1122, 1132, etc. But with Yoshi, it's 3111, 2121, and they all have just kind of shoddy reasoning. So I would like to actually find sort of the best players, sort of take a backroom approach similar to how the old rule sets would get created. Just find the best players for that character and ask them, okay, we have 4 extra slots. If you could fill a couple of those with sets that don't already exist in the custom project, what would you put there? So instead of having a community-wide thing, sort of trust in the better players, I guess, for the additional spots.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to doing it, and there's some of the pros for trusting the best players is there's less people to contact, and there's skill. They're already thinking in a competitive mindset, so that's also good. It wouldn't hurt to consult them, and definitely getting an even representation of voices when you poll much larger groups of people is difficult. So I could definitely see something like that happening and being quite fair or interesting. And that actually speaks to a lot of what we've been talking about for the 2 number 1 topics based on the survey is logistics and unlocking custom moves. Thinkaman, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say that's actually what we're doing in St. Louis is just polling people and saying, we have a Bowser Jr. who wants 3112, which is kind of an unusual one, but okay.
Cool.
We can put that on our St. Louis Wii's. No problem.
Yeah, and I like the idea of having 4 of the sets be national standards, if that's something we can establish, and then having a little bit more flexibility on the local level. Sounds like a lot of people are already doing that, so that's great. So let me jump back into the poll information, and if you guys are taking that survey, let's see how many responses we have going for us. Share screen, and we have 124 responses. Thank you for taking the time to support Project Smash and lend your voice to this discussion. The next most popular answer is, let's see, 60, 55. Some of the numbers have shifted around. We have 37 right here. So when and how to implement custom moves and ideas including partial allowances or supporting both custom and non-custom events within our community as a whole. Any thoughts on how we should implement custom moves? Because the talk before last fall going into Apex was logistics were a big concern, and they still are, Uh, do we have enough time to learn about all the different moves? And also, if we decide now to go customs, is it like we switch now and then that's it for the future, or is it something where we start big and pare down? And people are saying once you change X at X time, it's set in stone, it's too late. Other people were saying we should be more flexible. So that's kind of what this question is addressing. How do you think we should implement custom moves, and what should we look out for in the future to determine where our community should go?
Well, in terms of the idea of implementing them, that's kind of a almost funny question for me because they've been legal here in KC since the day the game came out. So for me, it's like, am I going to get to travel to other regions and play the game I've been playing all along? And it's a very different experience. I'm not sure if you guys have different experiences in terms of that, but the question's almost strange to me.
I also think it's important to make a distinction between, like, no customs is a subset of playing with customs. Like, for example, in some of the local St. Louis tournaments we've have had no customs, and I've mostly played like Ness and Falcon, because those are characters that have really good defaults. And I can still go and play default Ness and default Falcon in a customs game. The only difference is now I can also play Ganondorf. It's not like, I have to relearn those characters. I can still use them. It's just now those other characters that I can use too.
A good point. Does anybody, with your gut reactions, think that allowing both custom and non-custom events, or having an event with both customs and non-customs is feasible, or should they be kind of like what you're saying? Some regions just, cater to their own regional supporters, their own regional players, and that's just how we get the diversity that we see on a more national level. So do you think doing both in one event is even feasible?
No, it's not feasible. We've tried, and there's just no way you can say there's two Smash 4 main events. One event will have to be treated like a side event, and you're automatically handicapping that event. We've tried it before. No one will respect or take seriously whichever event you decide is the side event. Like, custom moves, if they're the side event, are just going to be seen as some gimmicky, dumb thing, people don't like to do. And if it's default moves, it's just like, well, why didn't you just play this in the regular event?
Yeah.
So it, like, per event, definitely not. Yeah, I really just think we should just stick with customs for now. The David Serlin philosophy is just allow everything until it's proven broken. And the beautiful thing about customs is that we don't have to turn them off if we do find something that's broken. If we do find the new Meta Knight Tornado or whatever, we can just turn that single move off.
Yeah, and like the dreaded Olimar reflector glitch that's been going around the internet.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it, but definitely something like that.
All you have to do to prevent that is just, turn off that one Olimar down B in doubles. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Pretty simple. Yeah, it's part of Serlin's ban philosophy was that if you do make a ban, it needs to be enforceable. It needs to be very clear and discreet, and that definitely not allowing a specific custom in a specific event is pretty easy to understand for everybody.
We literally had just like 30 people in chat say, "Don't split the community. Don't split the community."
Yeah. It's just super dangerous to be playing like that, saying, okay, we're just gonna have two events and some nationals. That creates a situation where it's like, well, you're gonna go to a national, but we don't know which ones are doing customs. So the players that support customs that are good will go to some. The players that don't like customs will go to the other ones. It's just terrible.
And I can also say, like, I have a little player experience in this because, like I said, KC's been running customs basically the whole time, but I've traveled to a couple tournaments down in Wichita that were not running customs, and I got wrecked because I didn't... Like, Rosalina is a really good character no matter what, but I don't know how to play default Rosalina. I don't practice it. I don't know the neutral. Yoshi just threw eggs at me, and I'm like, my side B isn't a move anymore. What do I do? So if you try to kind of have your cake and eat it too, you inevitably have to just create this big community split because I know I can't be a good player in non-custom unless I dedicated 100% to it and learned a new character.
I think Rosalina, Palutena, and maybe a couple others to a smaller extent are the only characters that you really have to learn really entirely separately, like two separate characters. Most of the characters are very similar. Or even in the case of, Ness or Diddy or those other top tiers that don't have any good customs, they're just the same no matter what.
Yeah, so splitting the player base, really big concern. Definitely within our Smash community overall, we see a lot of issues with between games. We see issues popping up of, where the whole sort of Brawl v Melee issue, I think, stemmed from a lot of the transition to Brawl and people feeling like they had to pick one game or the other instead of the idea that they could play both or one versus the other and still, go to the same events and have the same big Smash community, same big family, and just go from there. So definitely what we're seeing here is a resistance to this idea of introducing stuff into our community that would threaten or split the player base. So I think it's very important to, tiptoe around that and be very wary of it. As far as splitting the player base goes, I think before, when we were still in the Melee days and with Brawl, that was a much bigger concern because our community was much smaller. And I know that a lot of the hype and a lot of the energy that we have for Smash is because we're all playing like a few of the games, and then we all come together for these huge tournaments and we see where everything stacks up. It's one of our favorite parts of participating in multiplayer games. It's because we can directly compete and then see how our skills measure up. And this idea of if there's too many games or too many events, then that kind of muddles that water. But I don't know if anybody has taken a look at how big the community has gotten in the last 3 years or so, how many players are out there, how many of them still support the community with streams and tournament attendance, but may not exactly put so much effort and energy into just the same kind of competitive training and participation that a lot of the other top players do. And I don't know, just off the top of my head, if the threat, the danger of having side events that split the community or taking away from people's attention and time that they have to devote to Smash is as big of an issue now as it was before. I definitely think people do treat side events a little strangely, and that whether or not the tournament organizes it well and gives it the same love, care, and attention with stream time or TOs as they do their main events, maybe that's part of the reason why side events are not sort of better respected within our community. But I think that issue is tied to a lot of other issues, and I don't think customs should push against that issue just yet. It's something that's much deeper than just customs, and we may talk about it in a future time, but definitely there's a lot of issues tied to that. Just wanted to bring those up. So I'm going to go back to the survey. We're going to see what other issues were important to everyone taking the survey on the stream chat. Still have 124 responses. Let's go down to, 37, 36. The next most important issue was banning specific custom moves and combinations. We kind of already talked about that, how banning a specific move or a combination of custom moves is much more feasible now than it was before. And if there's anything broken, we don't have to consider, do we ban Meta Knight? We just say kill Mach Tornado 3 and we're all good. And perhaps that's the easiest way to allow people to play the characters they want without causing these huge disruptions in the metagame. Let's see, 26 or 31 right here. Yeah, splitting the base, 26. Potential matchups to study. I think there was a little bit of pushback at the beginning because people who were playing default Smash 4 didn't want to learn whole new strategies, didn't want characters who played in a certain way to break out of those molds with these custom moves that allowed them to do so much more than they could before. I don't know if anybody has anything to say on that. We just kind of discussed how Rosalina and certainly Palutena definitely played differently, more aggressively, more speedy than they would without customs, and that's a night and day kind of shift. Are there any other characters that you guys can think of that dramatically change the way they move or attack or recover with custom moves?
No. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say definitely. There's a ton of them. Like, Wii Fit Trainer gets to be a character at all, but like her whole game, as far as I can tell. I mean, I wasn't on the development team for this game. She seems to be designed around the fact that Jumbo Hoops is a very high priority move that beats a lot of stuff but has some unsafety on landing. And when you throw people on tilt because of that, you can work in the rest of your moves. When she doesn't have that move, I don't actually know what she does other than lose.
I think, Jumbo Hoops is the single move. It's not the best custom move by any stretch of imagination, but it's the one that most single-handedly helps a character because it takes Wii Fit Trainer, who's like this good but like character with this very specific flaw. No? Oracle's disagreeing?
Oh, I mean, I'm agreeing, but I'm just saying. You said good, but no. Wii Fit Trainer's trash outside of custom.
No. She's like she has,
Tried so hard to make Wii Fit Trainer.
no. I understand. Yeah.
She just has
because-
like all the bad things about being a tall character, but with none of the advantages.
Yeah.
She has no range. It doesn't make any
Right.
sense. Ugh, so frustrating.
She just is like I liked how Amphos put it the other day that she doesn't have buttons that beat other buttons. Like, if you take any two characters in the game and you just did random stuff, Wii Fit Trainer's going to lose. But and a lot of this comes down to poor range and poor out of shield options, and then Jumbo Hoop shows up and almost single-handedly solves that and makes her like a decent mid-tier character just automatically. I was actually going to say though that most characters don't really change all that much in the grand scheme of things with customs. You do have Palutenas and you do have some like Rosalines, but I look at someone like Rob, who really appreciates the custom options with like Gyro and Up B, but they don't change who he philosophically is as a character, like at all. You would fight Rob with the same mindset you would. He's just going to be better with his superior Up B options. That's how I view that matchup.
Yeah, I agree. But I would actually argue that it doesn't. The change is actually, pretty minimal on every single character.
Mhm.
Palutena is the only one that I've seen where the special move of lightweight is like that different to make her play differently and sort of super speed. But I mean the other one, like even I played Aerolink's Palutena, and yeah, it was different because he had a command dash. And he had like a mode where he could kill me off of a throw at 80. But other than that, like the majority of the game, we play the same. We're just playing basic footsies. It's the same thing. Most of the games played with normals. There are very few special moves that are, Wii Fit Trainer status or Donkey Kong Up B that are just like so good that you would only that they just like outshine a lot of their other moves. Those are few and far between, and even with those characters, their normals are still, very important. So, and I mean, like honestly, think about it. If you can't adapt to a character that's 90% the same with 4 slightly different moves, then like, should you really be winning in the first place?
Shots fired. I think Mario has a lot of versatility as a character overall, just with default. His ability to reflect, his ability to throw fireballs as a projectile, his ability to flood. Those are really dynamic and unique moves, and all of his customs have a wide range even within that, like a cape that does damage and kills, a cape that blows things around. Like that's a lot of versatility. I really like Mario and his Killer Up B. It allows him to combo into it from a variety of percentages and gives him a really dangerous combo game into kills at 60 damage, right, on Rob. So that's kind of crazy. But I think Bowser, that side B, what is it? Something slash? Dashing slash?
Dash slash.
That thing is really cool for giving him an ability to move horizontally, close in space, and even combo from it into itself or into up smashes and stuff. Really cool. But like Sakurai says, the general idea is the defaults are the most well-rounded version of the character. These customs are extreme twists with extreme drawbacks. And once you really start to understand that, he gave up this for that, then you compress those advantages and really play around the game that's still core to each character's unique role in the design space. So I really like customs so far for that. Go ahead, Thinkman.
Oh, as an interesting statistic, I was talking with the Empress when we were assembling the initial list of all the movesets for the project, and he commented how many of the moves used were just the defaults. And I dumped the most popular set of each one into a spreadsheet and just did a search, and 60% of the best in slot moves that were like the most preferred, the most frequently used, were the defaults. The other option 2 and 3 were only about 20% each on average, and I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, that just goes to show that the default moves were designed to be the moves for those characters in the way that the characters needed them.
And when you look at the majority of the moves where people do prefer others, it's either because they're more technical, so they're better at high-level play, or it's because the default move was made for a free-for-all situation. You see this mostly on heavy characters. Heavy characters have all these special moves that they want to use in like free-for-alls, like Warlock Punch. And they have better things for 1v1s.
Yeah, definitely. I could tell with Palutena, the default Palutena has a reflector and it has counter. That's kind of great for free-for-all and like countering spam, but it's not great when characters don't have projectiles. It's not great when characters aren't going to use those killing moves on you so you can counter. So definitely Palutena's default seems to be that well-rounded set, and if you start playing around with the other options, you get a much different kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Mii fighters.
Yeah.
Cool. So that we pretty much hit every topic in the issues concerning players in the order that were voted on in the survey. I think Slaps in the chat mentioned that he had one issue where he felt like custom move tournaments were sprung up all of a sudden, where we were going so many days with non-customs and all of a sudden it's customs. And yes, that's a sort of a... Oh yeah, go ahead if you want to say anything about that.
I mean, it's Slaps, so it's whatever. But
hey,
what do you want? We can't ease you into custom moves. It's on or it's off.
Yeah.
You know, we can't just say we can't turn one character on at a time so you get more comfortable with it. I mean, it did sort of just come out of nowhere, but I mean, this was a problem that needed to be tackled. You know.
Well, one of the reasons it did seem to kind of like pop up was this elastic effect of people wanting to use customs for like December and January, but holding off strictly due to Apex. So then Apex came and went, and now, boom, we're back to people were wanting to investigate stuff.
Really good point, and I will jump back into the survey. We're going to take a look at the last question asked on the survey. If you haven't taken the survey yet, you should. I'll drop the link in the Twitch chat, and you can take it if you are joining us a little bit later. But I'm going to share my screen now, and you can see some of the results. And all these results will be public when I update the website pretty soon, so you can have access to the same data that I have access right now. I'm going to read you all the options, and then we're going to go through them in a bit. But these are the we should sections. So it's great to talk about customs. It's great to have an opinion. It's great to learn about them. It's great to find solutions logistically and work within your own community to find out what works best for your community. But this is sort of a way, it's a time where we discuss what we should do moving on into the future, what we want to happen in order to improve our community moving forward. So I took a survey of what was being talked about in terms of customs, and I put a few of these we should ideas out there just to see how people would agree to them. So one of the options is keep EVO 2015 a non-custom event, as it is not a testing ground for competitive rule sets. I believe Nairo and Zero had this view. Strongly talking on Twitter, you can see on the main customs page here some of their tweets that they were saying you can click on any of this information to dig deeper into the conversation. Some of these has like 33 favorites and 44 favorites, so definitely people share this sentiment, so I put it in on the survey. The next option is continue building the metagame without customs to create a strong foundation to work from. That's a really interesting metagame question, and that can go as deep as you want it to. We might discuss that in a second. The next option, run and gather feedback from local regional tournaments over the next 1.5 months in order to make a more informed decision about EVO or just customs in general. It's not that any of us have any voting power on what they decide for EVO, but it's just, it would be important and I think helpful for our community to have some kind of platform or consensus to either communicate to the people running EVO or just for our own purposes as a community. So that's why I keep saying as if we could make decisions about EVO. That's why it pops up every now and then. The next option, experiment with alternative rule sets in events throughout the year regardless of the rule sets for EVO and Apex. Sometimes, like Thinkaman was saying, people want to do a few more things that are flexible for the region, but sometimes there's resistance because these big tournaments come up and people want to practice for them, and that's completely understandable. The next option, consider rule changes after EVO and Apex as they mark convenient half-year seasons for the Smash community. So around this time, we should be considering rule changes. We should be considering bans if that's a thing to consider, and be regularly doing this every half year or so. The next is work for transparency from TOs and other community leaders on rule set decisions. I know before with the surveys we've taken here with Project Smash, there was concern that so many things were being decided or discussed without, polling the people evenly, without consulting certain groups of the Smash community. So transparency overall kind of helps with that. I don't know. It's not targeting any one group or a specific person, but this is just something I threw out there. And the last option is to support both options with enthusiasm, no matter what the ratio of custom versus non-custom events. That's more of a thing about addressing our community attitude, right? Regardless of which way the rule sets fall, how are we going to build ourselves up as a community? How are we going to act on one accord? Are we going to cut each other down and do a lot of infighting, or are we going to stand with whatever decisions are made and work from there? So based on those options, the number one voted we should is this experiment with alternative rule sets and events throughout the year, regardless of what EVO and Apex do. So I'm going to throw that out to the group and see what you have to say about that and why you might think it was the most popular response.
Which one is the most popular?
Experiment with alternative rule sets and events throughout the year, regardless of the rule sets for EVO and Apex. 54% of the people voted for that one.
I'm not so sure I agree. I assume it would be the most popular because it's very non-committal, and it just sort of gives lots of people their options. If you don't like customs, don't go to customs. If you like customs, do. But then we get the issue of, it's splitting the community. We're going to see an overall decrease in events, and that's just going to lead. There's a whole bunch of potential problems with doing something like that. It's extremely important to have, a standard rule set in any game, It's most relevant in Smash because there's so many variables that you can turn on and off.
Right. And it's a sort of question, the way it's worded is, do you want to experiment with different rule sets? A lot of people say, yeah, okay, that sounds good. And then you say, oh, well, what in particular do you want? And then the yelling starts.
Yeah.
So do you think if there was more side events were a little bit more popular, or even if it's not a full side event tournament, if there was just a little bit more organized attention brought to alternative possibilities at tournaments, that something like that could definitely satisfy this we should possibility? It doesn't have to be a full tournament, just like a station for a block of an hour and say, we're on this station, they're going to be this rules, and people go to it knowing what they're going to get themselves into. They experiment a little bit, they give some feedback, and that's just something that they can regularly expect at events. Do you think that would help?
No. I mean, you said it yourself. You said alternative rule sets, but the second that you label them as an alternative rule set, it loses legitimacy. And players are looking for legitimacy in their rule sets because they want to know, when you go to a tournament, you want to be able to trust that, your skill is going to be the only factor that lets you win. And if you have something as a side event, naturally, like a player would just see that and say, there's a reason this is the side event and not the main event. Low tier side event, or Waseda doubles, or items on, or whatever. It's because those things affect competitive play, and they're not fit to be the main events of the tournament. And once you delegate, either standard or custom moves, regardless of which one, to side event, that's the attitude that people are going to take. We saw that firsthand. We tried to do that with custom moves. Like when that was on the 3DS and it wasn't really, an issue to let everybody use their own sets because it's just on the 3DS, we would hold custom and regular move tournaments at the same events, and just no one would enter whichever one was the side event.
And you reach a point where now you're treating a certain subset of the community as second-class citizens.
There you go.
And that's it is splitting the community.
Yeah, you're telling people, okay, the event that you think is legitimate, that's the side event. So it's kind of unfair. It's going to be unfair to somebody. I mean, I really just wish everyone could have the Serlin philosophy. Nothing is wrong with custom moves. People are just getting so concerned with some superficial nonsense, like, oh, what if it affects how people perceive the game? It doesn't change the game that much. It only makes the game more balanced. I see people legitimately in the same breath complaining about custom moves being dumb and also complaining about the game not being diverse enough without custom moves on. Like, are you kidding me? It's just I just had to rant. This frustrates me a lot.
I mean, I'll just say, if anyone wants to complain about custom moves, they forego the right to ever complain about Diddy Kong or Sheik.
Yeah, exactly. He gains nothing from custom. He gains like 2 horrible bananas and like giant peanuts.
I would like to add something important to this conversation. Hoo-ha.
Very good point. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of the diversity that custom moves bring, the complexity of either even talking about the issue, right, and getting it to work in tournaments, but also the whole main event versus side event thing. It's still a really complicated issue because it ties into both logistics and community issues, like where the community is moving and how it's growing over time. So none of these topics I think we should take lightly, and I'm glad we're having this conversation with a lot of people that are running events and behind the scenes working to make a lot of these alternative rule sets and eventually main rule sets work. I'm going to run back to the survey and pick the next popular response. I'll put it up on the screen. Let's see. So that was 54% for that one. Next one will be 49%. So yeah, gather feedback from local and regional tournaments over the next 1.5 months to make a more informed decision. We should be gathering feedback all the time, but definitely having an organized way to do it and maybe an organized time frame, a timeline to do it would be helpful, so people aren't just sitting around waiting. I hope somebody else, puts in a good word for customs, because that kind of happened with Apex. People were trying to consider Apex customs. They said it was too early and we didn't have the logistic thing solved for Apex, so everyone said, fine, we'll wait till after Apex. But there was no announcement. There was no big organized event after Apex for people to either switch to it or to start talking, right? So I think in a lot of ways, this we should option addresses this issue of how you think it's best as a community to revisit ideas and how you think it's best to actually gather data for something like this.
Well, making it the standard will start to gather data naturally, and that's why I think it's the best. Like, everyone's running custom moves. It's the standard, That's, if something's busted, we will see that that's busted. It's like a huge, it's not to treat it like a side event, but it does end up being sort of like a beta test. You could see it. You could see it in PM a little bit. The PMBR can't be expected to find all the broken strategies, so they have to let the people play the game. And if something is busted that needs to be fixed, that'll arise. Whether or not the PMBR has the correct responses to things that are quote unquote broken is up for debate. But the idea is similar. Everyone plays with custom moves. If every tournament and every live stream and every player you see playing has custom moves, we will know if something's wrong, and that's how we gather data. We'll have the entire community using the same rule set to be able to form opinions about something, not just if we don't do that, the alternative is that we get a bunch of people who don't play with custom moves just looking at it on the outside in, and you can't form an accurate viewpoint like that. It's just like, well, this looks broken, but it could just be a gimmick because there's not that many people playing it, and you can't get as much accurate data. So I think, we should just. I think it's good that there's kind of becoming the standard now, but we do need to remember that it is important to collect data. If there is something wrong with custom moves or a custom move, then this is how we'll find out, is by everyone using them. This is how we get the maximum, most optimal amount of data.
And I would also kind of like to add to that thought that this game's only been out 4 months, and there's 51 characters in it. There's going to be a 52nd in the next month or so. We don't know as much as we think we know, even if you take custom moves off the table. Like, there are whole characters who we've only scratched the surface of just because they aren't popular. Wasn't it a month ago everyone thought Olimar was bottom tier, maybe mid-ish if we're optimistic, and then someone using him gets second at Apex. So we're beta testing the whole game right now. I don't really see that adding customs into the mix really increases the volatility of what we're doing in the first place.
And at the same time, though, it isn't like we don't know what the customs do. Now, there are lots of people who don't know all the customs, but it's not like there are some that are undiscovered. Like, you know, I know all the customs. I'm not trying to brag. I just play the game a lot. I've been playing with customs for 4 months. We just did the 2000 games message.
What about Mewtwo's customs?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You got me.
That is actually a topic of non-trivial concern because those rules have to be locked in by March 27th. If Mewtwo comes out on March 25th, we're going to have one heck of a hustle.
Hey, especially if Mewtwo's the Diddy killer, we're going to want him in EVO, but we're not going to be allowed to play him.
Dude, that would be hilarious if Mewtwo was just, like, Nintendo's answer was not to nerf Diddy Kong, but they just made Mewtwo somehow the perfect counter-pick character for Diddy. That would be awesome. I know you're watching, Reggie. Do it, Reggie.
Mewtwo's custom Shadow Ball targets Rocko barrels and automatically meteors into using them.
It's like specific Diddy. Number 2s are all the Diddy killers. Number 1's all the Rosalina killers. Or number 3, you're like, that'd be crazy. Disables gravity absorption. Like, what?
Oh, God. Yeah, I really want Mewtwo's customs to be similar to Palutena's and Mii Brawlers, where they're all, like, super different. Like, there's no rush. Like, they could do that. That would be great. And it fits because Mewtwo... You know, you learn so many moves in Pokemon. If you play Pokemon, you learn so many TMs. It's great.
It's so good.
Having a nerdgasm. Just
Down B should be launch Mew.
Boy, yeah.
Launch Mew and fight with you. That'd be so cool. Anyway, that's enough Mewtwo. I'll get back to the last few issues, and we can start wrapping up this roundtable. So that the second most popular decision was taking data over the next 1.5 months. And then it is work for more transparency from TOs and other community leaders on rule sets. From what I see, looking at the conversations that are happening in the Smash community, a lot of TOs are really smart. They know what they're doing. They actually do a lot of thoughtful things to gather feedback. But a lot of times, the methods that they use and the message that they can send to their player base and to others is not clearly presented. Maybe it's a Facebook post every here and there. Maybe it's a Twitter post linking to another post or argument. But a lot of times I feel like just organizing what's already being said is important, and then from there pushing for a little bit more transparency. Because I can ask Oracle right now. He was talking about the Serlin philosophy for banning things in games, which involves letting the game be and only banning things discreetly and when it's broken and when it proves to be a detriment to the game in terms of strategic variety in your entire metagame. But we've had things, what we discussed in the last round, or the previous roundtable on ban is some people treat character bans and level bans differently with their philosophy. And at Shockwave, I know that Mii fighters have not been allowed in certain tournaments, certain events, in certain capacities, even when customs were allowed.
That's purely due to logistical reasons. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of until recently that you could have the default size Mii. Because there's this huge issue with, people adding their Miis. It's Mii's moves do different damage and knockback and growth based on the size, based on the size of your Mii. So you can edit height and sort of weight of the Mii, and you get all these characters that are you add about 20 more characters with all the possibilities, different knockback and speed. The character's run speed is different. Moves on the Mii Brawler on the fighting one get more range and less and different amounts of cooldown. It would be nuts forcing people to learn against that. But apparently on ECU, you can make a default sized Mii, right? And so you can just use that as your Mii fighter for everyone, and then everybody has the same one.
That sounds a little different from your philosophy of you only ban it when it's broken and then you allow it otherwise when...
Logistically, like for
yeah,
everyone to
logistically.
add their Miis, you would have to close out of Smash, make your own Mii to your sizes, like whatever your size was. Then like save the Mii, close the Mii Maker, open up Smash again. Like for every Wii U, then that's way too time consuming. It's not possible for me to make every possible Wii. There's only 10 slots. There's more than 10 possible Miis for each one. And then the only other alternative would be allowing people to use the 3DS, which I've already covered. I don't want to give an advantage to people, just for buying an additional tool.
So I doubt the Miis will be that popular, and I know it's kind of a lot of work to do just for one character. But then
they're actually gonna be on at the next Shockwave. I just need to show up to FX and actually make the Miis and then do their moves, their move loadouts.
All right, cool. Okay. Go ahead, Amazing Envirus.
Can I add just some stuff about how the Miis work? Because I think there's actually a lot of people who aren't quite sure about them. They're kind of a special case within the game, where Miis are really just like any other character. They actually have infinite slots. You could upload every possible Mii combination if you had a couple weeks to make it. But beyond that, like, I almost look at them like a custom character with 5 parameters, 4 moves, and then a move set, or then a size, rather. Because I think it usually comes down, there's an optimum size for the Miis. Like, Mii Brawler should be smallest. I think Sword Fighter and Gunner want to be smallest width and a quarter of the way up the height slider. It just lets them hit battlefield platforms with everything instead of miss it with everything. And that's kind of one of those interesting cases where, do we want to standardize on the default size or the optimum size?
I think one of the most interesting things about Miis is you get to play with the actual Miis that you've been using in the Wii and the Wii U for years, right? And even though it's for logistical regions, it could be reasonable to put default sizes in. I think the charm is that you're playing with the person that looks like your best friend and is tall like your best friend, or short like your best friend, stocky like your best friend, or you, because it's a Mii. And I don't know if that's something you necessarily want to take away. I know that the Nintendo tournament they ran officially had a rule where the Mii must be in your likeness, which is a funny way of preventing people from being political figures or otherwise in being on a national stream.
Now, the problem with that is you want to play as your friend, but if you do have that stocky friend, you're a low tier.
Get some high tier friends and then join me in the tournament. Cool. So we have a guest joining us right at the end, stuck in ice, trying to make it here. But Kobe, if you want to introduce yourself and give us a brief message about how you feel about customs, as we're kind of wrapping up this roundtable.
Yeah. Sorry I'm so late. I'm Kobe. Go by voice user when I enter tournaments and pretty much everywhere else. Yeah, like you said, I got stuck in the ice on the way here. Texas doesn't really have any way to deal with that, and Ford Focus isn't great for that. But as far as my opinions on custom moves goes, it's pretty general. I think that they're a great idea. They expand the gameplay and let you, kind of make characters your own and figure out new ways to use them. I mean, I'm a full supporter of them.
Cool. So I was going to touch on these last few, what we should do. This is based on a survey that we threw out to the Twitch chat and everyone else on the internet about custom moves, and we're just going over some of the results. Some of the last things that people thought we should do as a community. The last one we mentioned was having more transparency among TOs and tournament leaders for the rule sets that they decide on. Regardless of what they decide on, just letting us know a little bit more about who they polled and what their thought process was important. The next thing that was important to people is having enthusiasm no matter what the rule set turns out to be, because we need to be sort of one unit or united in sort of the enthusiasm we bring to Smash, so that when people see us as a community, we are not tearing each other down, but saying, hey, no matter what the rules are, we still think this is Smash. We're going to put our best efforts into it. If anybody has anything to say on just overall community enthusiasm or tone, say that now. The next issue, the next most popular issue, is that 26% of people said consider rule changes after Evo and Apex as they mark happier seasons. That's kind of a neat way of giving any decision that is made a 6-month breathing room to kind of legitimately try it out instead of people trying to wait it out, saying, well, this is going to be banned anyway. So 6 months is a long time to wait to have something change for you. You might as well embrace it and go for it.
I mean, you got, like, in my opinion, you have to, I view it like, ripping off, making a big change to the rule sets is going to be like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's gonna happen. Eventually custom moves need to be tested, but the longer that you wait, the more people are going to get comfortable with whatever, with the default rule set, and the harder it is going to be for people to except when it, is like, okay, guys, we need to change. Oh, but we've been doing this rule set for 6 months. People just aren't going to want to change. So I think it's really important. It's huge that Evo's doing this now. If custom moves are broken, we can always turn them off, but it's going to be way harder, like, if it were be 6 months or a year down the road to say, hey, guys, it's time to try custom moves, when people are already used to, specific stuff. Early metagame is the time to test stuff. Waiting is not going to accomplish anything except for lowering the chance that this thing that could add a lot of excitement and diversity to Smash 4, we could just miss that opportunity completely.
Very good point. And the two options I got the lowest amount of votes on the we should section is keep Evo non-custom and continue building the metagame without customs to create a strong foundation to work from. Those only got 18 and 17% respectively. Interesting points of views, but and I know a lot of what Evo decides is out of our hands, but it seems like everyone here is sort of pro customs, pro Evo having customs, and that's kind of a non-issue. But I still think it's important to address some of the other points of views within the Smash community and say, even though things didn't quite go your way, like, we're going to try to make the best of it. I think that's important. And that kind of brings us to the end of all of the topics that we have for discussing customs. So to close out, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks Attorney Locator for hosting this roundtable discussion. There'll be more of these in the future, trying to have these once every 2 weeks and addressing important issues that pop up within the community. It's important to check the website, www.smash.menu, to check out all this information on customs, right? I'll show you a little bit. But this information on customs and where the conversation's going and taking the survey and even tuning in, all that's very important for making sure that what you think and what you say is tallied up and added to the community so that we can make Smash as good as possible. So to close out, you can say anything you want to say, closing words on customs, and please do share what your favorite custom move is or the custom move you think is going to be the most dangerous in the tournaments to come, and we will close out. Starting with you, Think-A-Man.
Well, I think Stupo Speed is probably the coolest custom in the game, just like mechanically and the options it gives. So I'm a fan of that. Ganon has some fun stuff too. We Fitron has some fun stuff. After we close out here, I'll stick around in the chat and talk with people. If anyone wants to know like mechanics about any of the customs or wants to discuss like balance of stuff, I can talk about that for hours. So I'll just stick around and do that in the chat.
Cool. Next, Amazing Ampharos.
Well, I'm really excited for custom moves in general because, like, they're almost like magic. They make the game more balanced, but even on like a micro level, they improve the balance of matchup spreads. Like, Rosalina is one of the best characters in the game no matter what. The main thing customs do for her is they make her Diddy Kong matchup easier and make her matchups against all the lower tiers who she just wrecks otherwise harder, but that's fair. And the most fun, it has to be Luma Warp. Like, I can play footsies with 2 characters at once with Luma Warp. It's so much fun. The most influential is a bit harder. I'm kind of guessing it'll be Twisting Fox because Fox being able to confirm and do a really early kill move, I think's it's going to define the character is how I feel that's going to go.
Yeah. Very good, well put. I remember previously when we were talking with Wobbles and we were talking about 2 versus 3 stock, which was the first roundtable discussion here with Project Smash. He said something along the lines of, if we find something in Smash 4 that dramatically allows us to kill faster, then maybe going to 3 stocks would be a much better decision, a much more feasible idea. Then all of a sudden, some of these customs are allowing us to hit confirm at 60 into kill setups when the enemies die, when the targets die at like 100 or so. So that's crazy, right? Maybe customs are unlocking a lot of that kill potential that Wobbles was talking about before. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Next, Kobe.
Well, I definitely think, first of all, that I would agree that lightweight is definitely one of the most fun. The super speed is one of the most fun to see, because I mean, we saw it at a couple weeks ago, where we could see people doing some crazy combos, knocking people off the top really early. Um, but again, I think unlocking that potential, that like Amphro said, is unlocking that potential to find new and creative ways to get those kills early on, and maybe like changing the metagame a little bit like that. I think that finding those different ways can absolutely change how the game is going to be played and ruled in the future, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. And Oracle, you are last but not least.
Okay, first of all, wait. Okay, make sure my mic was on. First of all, follow me at OracleTX on Twitter. That's the most important part. I need more Twitter followers. I know not all of you in the chat are following me right now. You need to be following me. And second of all, I'm excited for a lot of custom moves. I think arguably the one that makes the biggest splash is Palutena's lightweight, because with lightweight active, if you get a grab, then she gets a kill at about 80 with no rage. Like, it's pretty nuts. And it's really cool to see a character that's just kind of otherwise pretty bad change like that. So I would like Palutena is lightweight. Donkey Kong's Kong Cyclone, the big, the wind box one is pretty strong. And then what other? Oh god, there's so many. There's just way too many. I'll just say Rob's trip gyro for the next one. That one's pretty great.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Richard Terrell. I go by Kirby Kid and been with the Smash community a long time. Creator of Project Smash and hosting these roundtables. I think the custom move that I think is going to make a big impact in a lot of ways is Mario's Killer Up B. I think people don't realize how Mario can combo into that move from just about all of his air moves in different ways. It's going to be crazy, right? And chasing people in the air with up airs isn't going to end with a couple of piddling coins falling down from the sky. It's going to end in a huge explosion and get him kills way earlier than people realize. Just for a little hint out there, if you down tilt Diddy at around 80% and then go immediately into your Killer Up B, he kills Diddy, and that's a dead Diddy from the stage. So be looking for stuff like that. Be testing out custom moves. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming in the future. Do visit www.smash.menu. Stay tuned to Turning Locator in the meantime. And thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, I'll still be hanging out in Twitch chat and on Twitter and in this Hangout, just if anybody wants to talk more about custom moves and all these topics we brought up. Thanks for watching us, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks.